yet it comes into existence. That means it must be contingent upon something else. And if that goes on ad infinitum, then you get to the problem of infinite regression, which is essentially, it just simply goes on forever. And if it goes on forever, you will not come into the present. So for example, but one cannot traverse infinity.
Okay.
So just by objective reasoning, the only possible logical conclusion therefore would be that something has to be independent and outside of those contingent set of things, and is necessary and independent. And it's a bit of a mouthful that I've said.
Yeah.
However, it just makes perfectly plausible sense to see. Because what's the other alternative? The other alternative perhaps would be that the universe creates itself, which is non-analogous. It's like saying a mother gave birth to herself. That would be one nonsensical argument.
That doesn't make sense, yeah.
Yep. The second argument, which was prevailing here in the West, just say 200 years ago, which the universe is just a brute fact, meaning it exists and it is eternal. But since scientific findings over the last 100 years in particular, where it's been understood that the universe has a starting point and it came into existence, whatever model of that you take, then by necessity, it only then suggests that if it's come into existence, what has perpetuated it? So did it come, again, you get into the realm of the metaphysical, the philosophy of science, basically speaking. Because science cannot observe, it can only observe the testifiable or the observable. So by definition then, the only logical explanation therefore would be, either we've got an infinite past chain of events, which will be nonsensical. It's like we will not come into the present.
I don't believe that.
Yeah, super. So the only logical thing therefore would be something which is independent, necessary, and not contingent. And therefore, it's not a part. It's outside of that set of contingent things. And by necessity, it has to be independent. Otherwise, as I said, we get into the problem which you've also rejected. The problem of
It's interesting to it's interesting.
So then, what we believe on top of that, if by this supposition there is a creator, then it makes no sense he's created this whole universe in folly. There must be a purpose behind it. It can't be purposeless, simply because of the gargantuan size of it and the fact that it's still expanding, for example. So it necessitates something which is beyond the realm. So in the Islamic narrative, God Almighty, as we understand it, is unlike his creation, which fits very well, you see, with the concept that something beyond the universe has created the universe. Whereas, for example, other beliefs, with due respect, what they seem to do is that they make their major protagonists as the source of deity. So, for example, in Christianity, which I'm not sure how much you're familiar with, Christ himself was later in Christian history made into a divine figure, when if you read the New Testament carefully, he makes no such claim of being God. It's quite extraordinary how people come to this conclusion. So, in the Islamic narrative, is God sends messengers, of which Christ will be one, but he's simply a messenger. The final messenger in the Islamic parallel is the Prophet Muhammad, upon whom be peace, God's final messenger to mankind, with the singular notion that one day we're all going to perish, and it makes sense, therefore, there's a creator, that he's created us for a purpose, to acknowledge that creator. And therefore, acknowledgement of that creator would be to listen to what that creator asks of us or wants of us. Because it makes no sense, this is all created purposelessly. Surely there is a purpose. And ones who dismiss that, well, the fact is that we're here miraculous in itself. It's testification to something beyond the universe has set us in motion in such a way where everything is so perfectly designed for our existence. Not that we are suited to the prevailing forces, but the prevailing forces are also suited to us. It's all like it's perfectly harmonized. So we believe that therefore you have to acknowledge that creator. He's given us priceless assets such as our eyes or our feet or our ability to live and breathe. So this is all. Nobody would swap that for anything free. So hence within this paradigm, we believe that God Almighty, to whom we are going to return to one day, and I find those who dismiss it just need to reflect the fact that we're here in itself is a miracle. So for us, in our paradigm, we will be resurrected. We only have one life, so we don't believe in reincarnation, for example. We only have one life, and this is the test. If we pass this test, an eternal abode waits for us.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
To read it in English,
yes.
It's not the same as to read it in Arabic, is it?
But I mean, all we can possibly do, because language by definition would be variable. So we got the best possible translations that we can bring out, just to give that gist. But you're right, you're correct what you're saying, but essentially speaking, with the diversity of the Arabic language, there can be a multitude of different, not essentially meanings, but certain expansions on certain words. So have a good read of it, see what you think, and I'm sure you will find it most interesting.
Thank you.
Have a good evening. Thank you so much. Thank you. So a very pleasant conversation we've had here with a very pleasant couple, and asking the right questions, and I think the lady in particular was taken by the points. May Allah guide them, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
share your location.